Hey, welcome to the Movie Zone. Today, we are recapping on the 2007 drama movie Bucket List, a film following two unlikely friends who meet in unordinary circumstances to create long-lasting memories. As usual, spoilers ahead, so be ready. Let's begin. The movie begins as we hear Carter Chambers talk about a man named Edward Cole. He tells us how the man had impacted his life and how the man himself made grand changes to himself, living his life to the fullest. At the mechanic shop, Carter is working alongside his very young coworker. The young guy is asking some trivia questions. It's almost like a TV show, but Carter gets every question right. It's uncanny. Just then, he gets a call from his home. The happiness he had moments ago fades away as he slowly walks outside the shop. On the other hand, Edward Cole, a super arrogant millionaire, is in yet another lawsuit. He has bought over 8 hospitals in the last few years and has been requesting to buy another one. The officials are concerned that the hospitals he runs at the moment are in bad condition, as no patients get private rooms. Edward's reasoning being he runs a hospital, not a spa. This lawsuit is also in the pocket, but Edward soon has a larger issue. He continues to cough until he spits blood and has to be rushed to the hospital before the verdict is reached. Edward is taken to one of the hospitals he owns and rushed into a room after his preliminary exams. He is fixed with all the medical wires and pipes. Edward still has the arrogance he had when he was young and denies all help. He regrets it instantly when he reaches for the bed. The doctors tell him that he has cancer, which does not seem to concern Edward that much. After the doctors go on, Edward notices that beside his bed is another patient. It's Carter. Edward doesn't really fancy Carter and thinks that he is kind of ruining the mood. He asked his assistant, Thomas, to get rid of Carter and make this a private room. However, Thomas tells him that for all his life, Edward had actually fought against the making of private rooms in hospitals, and so to do this now would be bad for his PR. Edward grumbles, but Thomas doesn't give in to his whims. Edward and Carter introduce themselves after the awkward start. The next day, Edward's hair is cut and he is operated on to see how much of the cancer has spread. The doctors give him a 5% chance to survive. After the surgery, he is returned back to his room. Virginia, Carter's wife, has come to visit him and pities Edward for being alone. She was a nurse when she was young and hates it when patients are left alone after surgeries. After Virginia leaves, Edward talks to Carter and tells him that he thinks more people in hospitals die from visitors than the disease itself. The next morning arrives, and Edward's doctor arrives and gives him his regular check. He tells Edward that the operation was a success and his scans are clean, but does want to get Edward started on the chemo as soon as today. The man is nonchalant about everything. Carter, on the other hand, hasn't been visited by his doctor in a few days, and so he asks the doctor if he can have a look. However, the doctor doesn't care and tells him that he will inform Carter's doctor. Seeing Carter familiar with the hospital service, Edward asks how long he has been here, and Carter replies that he has been in and out of the hospital for a few months. Carter then gives a very vivid and very scary description of what it's like to be on chemo to a still carefree Edward. Carter asks about the contraception Edward had beside his bed. It's actually a coffee making machine for creating the world's most expensive coffee, Kopi Luwak. Carter then goes rambling about an amazing fact about coffee, and to make him shut up, Edward offers him a cup. Carter gleefully passes the offer. The chemotherapy then begins on Edward. On the first day of chemo, Edward has the most extravagant dinner. He even offers Carter a platter, claiming that it's the best in LA, but Carter declines the offer. That night, Edward throws up all that he had eaten, probably because his body cannot handle such food anymore that he has taken chemo. Not the best in LA now, Carter remarks. The next day, Carter's firstborn son visits him. He comes with wishes from his grandchildren to get well soon. They have sent him a gift, a keyring of a Shelby 350 car. Carter reminisces how he always wanted to ride one of those cars. After his son leaves, Carter and Edward discuss their families. Edward tells Carter that he has no one. He has been married 4 times and it hasn't really worked for him. Carter assures him that he has been married long enough for the both of them. He has 3 children and has been married for almost 40 years now. Edward and Carter's story are completely different. Edward was only concentrated on his work and life and couldn't focus on a family. whereas Carter got his wife pregnant while in the first years of college and took the first job he could and has been working day and night for his family ever since, barely taking any time for himself. The next few days, Carter and Edward both feel the full blow of chemo and the other experimental drug that they were both taking. The two hospital roomies bond over some cards and help each other out whenever they are uncomfortable and sickly. They both go over all of the doses of chemo and patiently wait for their test results. One night, as Edward is watching baseball, he realizes that Carter is writing something. He asks what it is, but Carter doesn't share the details. Just then, Edward's doctor arrives and gives him the bad news. He has 6 months, a year at max. The news is a shock to him, and the doctor assures him that he will be there to answer all of Edward's questions. Edward only has one question. He asks Carter to ask about his health. The doctor looks at Carter's chart, and his news is no good either. Carter had always thought that he would love to know the day he dies, but now that he knew it, he hated nothing more than it. Carter, too, had no longer than 6 months to spare. In sadness and probably anger at his life, Carter throws away the piece of paper he had been scribbling on. The next day, Edward arrives with the grave question. What is he supposed to do for Edward after his demise? Edward, as always, ignores the question of major issues. He is handed a magazine and the paper which Carter threw away yesterday. Edward realizes that it's a bucket list filled with stuff that Carter wants to do before he dies. Carter and Edward bicker like children over the paper until Carter gives up and acknowledges the idea. He thinks it's metaphorical, but Edward is excited about it. He mocks Carter's list. It has some stuff that he cannot find reasonable, like laugh until you cry, help a complete stranger for the good, and witness something majestic. Carter replies that the Himalayas were the majestic thing he wanted to see. Edward adds in a few of his own ideas, skydiving for instance, and to kiss the world's most beautiful woman, and proposes that the both of them take the journey to fill up their bucket list. Money is not an issue because Edward can take care of it. All Carter needs to say is yes. Carter is hesitant at first, but Edward reminds him that he had spent the entirety of his life for his family and deserves some time to himself. Just as Carter agrees, Virginia comes to visit and Edward goes out to give them some privacy. Carter announces to Virginia that he will leave with Carter. He doesn't know where, but he wants to take the journey. He has given all his life for her and their children, and now he wants his death to himself. Virginia leaves and passes Edward on the way, passing some rude comments. The first thing to cross off is skydiving, and they do just that. Carter is scared as crap, but Edward is a maniac, the Joker energy dripping from Jack Nicholson. They get a tattoo next, but Carter doesn't do it, cause it's not in his list. Edwards asked him if that's because of his wife, and that if he is worried about getting with another woman. Carter tells him that he has never been with anyone but his wife. Edwards wants to add an orgy to the list after hearing this, but there is no way Carter would accept. A car race follows, and Carter gets to drive his favorite car. He gets so excited he almost gets them killed. That would have been quite the twist if that happened. They travel everywhere on Edward's private plane with comfortable sofas and very comfortable air hostesses. On their way to their next destination, the hospital mates have a chat about God. Edward doesn't really believe there is a God, nor does he want to place his trust in any of the scientific theories of the world creation. He simply believes that they live and die and nothing else matters. Carter, on the other hand, is a believer in God and has faith in him. They go to have dinner in a French restaurant, and Edward finally opens up about his family. He has a daughter, who he has not talked to in a long while. Carter tells him that reconnecting with her should be on his list, but Edward denies it. They get into a little argument. All of a sudden, Carter gets up and walks away. Edward thinks he's being a little unreasonable and goes to check on him in the restroom. Carter actually has his catheter come loose and the blood has spilled all over his shirt. Edward is scared. He tells Carter that maybe it's a good idea to head to the hospital, but Carter doesn't want to give up now. So, having no choice, they go back to their hotel. As Carter goes to take a bath, Edward gets a disturbing call from Virginia asking him to return her husband. Edward is at a loss of words and tells her that he will try. He then goes to meet Carter, who is enjoying a bath. He tells him that maybe they could continue later, but Carter immediately figures that he had talked to Virginia and tells Edward not to take any guilt because he didn't change his mind. Edward doesn't have enough power to do so. Their journey continues, and they head to Africa. Edward has an item on his list to tick off, hunting a big cat, but he gets tuckered out with one gunshot. Later that night, they climb on top of the catacombs in Egypt and watch the pyramids. Carter tells another fun fact, like always, about the Egyptians. He says that the Egyptians believe that upon entering the dead world, the people are asked 2 questions which decide if they go to heaven or hell. He asked the same question to Edward, one of them being, "Have you found joy in your life?" Edward tells him that when his daughter got married, he was not pleased with the idea because he didn't like the groom's character for some reason. He couldn't tell. But after a few months, the guy started beating his daughter. At first, Edward didn't do anything because his daughter pleaded with him not to. But when the incident happened again, he made sure the man paid. His daughter was not happy. Her husband had left her after the incident, and so she was devastated and cursed her father. They hadn't talked since. Edward tells Carter that he had found joy in helping his daughter, even though the consequences were dire on his side, and he would do it again. So yes, he had found joy in his life. Their trip takes them to India next, where they visit the Taj Mahal. They also discuss how they would like to be taken care of. Edward is still scared about being buried or cremated, but Carter wants to be cremated. Their next destination is Mount Everest in Nepal. Since the Himalayas were something Carter wanted to witness, however, the weather there is very bad and it won't clear up until next spring. The two of them are disappointed. They don't have much time. Edward is worried about Carter's worsening health and hints that it must be a sign for them to return home. Carter is still adamant at going on. They head to Hong Kong next, and Carter heads to the bar while Edward heads back to his room. Carter rambles on to the bartender how he missed out on Everest, when suddenly a woman, Angelica, who also seems to be very fond of the mountains. They both have a lovely conversation, after which she offers to share her bed with him for the night. Carter is dumbfounded, but denies the offer. He goes to Edward and tells him that it's time for him to go, as Edward had crossed the line by sending Angelica to seduce him. They return to New York, but Thomas drives them straight to Edward's daughter's house. This was Carter's idea, and they both get into a very huge argument. Edward doesn't want to go to his daughter's because he is afraid that she will hate him, or she hates him. They part ways and Carter takes the taxi back home. Life returns to normal, plus the cancer, obviously, for Edward. The same business meeting and the same people who care for nothing but the money. One day, he gets a call. Carter had passed out in his home and was in the hospital. Edward quickly goes to meet his buddy. Virginia is there, and she gives him a letter from Carter, which was meant for him. Carter and Edward then converse, and Carter reveals why he didn't take the Kopi Luwak. He hands a paper to Edward telling the recipe to make the coffee. It was actually made of the excreta of a jungle cat who ate the coffee beans. This makes Carter and Edward laugh so hard, they both cry. The list has one less item now. However, it's not over. Carter hands the list to Edward and asks him to finish it. Edward leaves as Carter is taken to his operation. He reads Carter's letter on the way, which asks him to take the leap and meet his daughter. He begs him to do this so that Edward won't regret it. Edward decides to listen to his friend and meets with his daughter. He even has a granddaughter. He kisses her, crossing off the kiss the world's most beautiful woman from the list. Carter undergoes surgery, but the cancer beats him, and he doesn't make it. Edward is saddened by the loss of his friend and visits his funeral. He didn't realize when he had made friends with this complete stranger, whom he helped get his dreams, and who in turn helped him as well. He then crosses off "help a complete stranger for the good" off the list. No amount of tears can console him. Carter had saved his life. Sometime later, Edward passes away as well. Thomas makes his way to the Himalayas and sets Edward's ashes next to Carter's, at the most majestic place around the world. The friends were together even after death, and they checked off the final item on the list, witnessed something truly majestic. What do you think about this gripping movie? Tell us in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. See you next time.